Well, how did you get turned?
I don't know. Let's see.
Little technical difficulties. Hi, this is Lori from Glp1 Journey in Review. There we go. Now we got Pamela from It's Perfectly Pamela. Hopefully, you guys are having a great weekend. We're going to be talking today about meal prepping. So, Pamela, why don't you take over for a second? I was told
All
somebody
right.
that I would let them know when we're starting our live.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lori, first of all, for inviting me to this live and suggesting that we talk about meal prep. That's something I've been doing at least over the last few weeks consistently again, because I knew in the past how much it had really helped me stay on track. And of course, as we were talking earlier, I had mentioned how when I moved, I fell off track
Hmm.
with eating. And even on a GLP-1, sometimes you have those moments. And I was having one of those moments for a couple of months. And so I needed to do something to get back on track. And I remembered the meal planning and how helpful it was. And so I decided to go ahead and start doing planning again and prepping everything in advance. And it's really helped. I've got the scale moving again without really having to increase dosage. And so I'm happy about that. It's definitely been a huge help.
Now, this is where Pam and I are a little bit different because I'm doing this live today, I am meal prepping, cooking a meatloaf to have for lunches during the week. Usually I go for turkey, but I just happen to have ground beef, so it's just regular meatloaf. But I work a lot and I'm very busy, and I have tons of delis by me that actually make like grilled chicken and sell it. Some of them are even packaged in the little meal trays because there's a lot of retirement areas by where I live. And they have all sorts of things like that. So I'm a little lazy sometimes and I buy it. But I do meal prep once in a while. But when I do buy it, I have talked to them about what their ingredients are and so forth. So that helps. Um, what are you meal prepping this week? I just told you I'm doing meatloaf.
So this week I have three options that I'm doing. Normally I only do two, but lately I've kind of found that sometimes I just don't want what I prepped. And so
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do three. So at least I have more of a variety of an option. And so I'm doing some steak bites with some cabbage and
Mm.
sweet potatoes. And I am doing some Parmesan crusted chicken strips with some mixed veggies. And then I am doing my version of a chicken pot pie.
Tell us about your version. This sounds really good.
Well, okay, so I created, I guess, this recipe when I was doing keto. So it is a low carb version, but I swapped it out since I'm no longer keto and no longer really trying to. I mean, I limit my carbs, but I'm not like trying to be low carb like keto.
Hmm.
So it's really I just get some frozen mixed vegetables and I steam them so that they're already so that the liquid, I can get all the liquid out of them. Now throw that in a pan with some cream of chicken soup, cream of celery soup, all my seasonings, and I pre-cook my chicken breast, but I make sure I take it out when it's barely done just so that it doesn't dry out. Chop it
Hmm.
up into little bite-sized pieces and mix all that in. And then for the crust, I only do like a top crust. It's not a, full pot pie with crust on the bottom too. And I'm actually using the Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. So
Hmm.
that'll be my topping. And so when I was keto, I would do what they call fathead dough and use that as the topping. So,
That sounds good. On my meatloaf today, it's funny because I went to the store and I could have sworn that I had, a little bit of breadcrumbs to put in there, and I came home and I didn't. But in the refrigerator, I found that I had ground pork rinds, which may have a little bit more fat and a little bit
mhm.
more calories. And I guess I had that from when I was trying to do a keto week or something like that, because I try to vary things up
Yeah.
and do things like that. So that's what I had. As a matter of fact, last week, again, not like me, I actually did do some meal prep. Um, it was kind of like a dinner, and then I made enough for a couple of lunches. And I made this boneless chicken, and it was a
Mhm.
one pan meal where you take the zest of a lemon and you put it in a bowl and then squeeze the rest of the lemon or any lemon juice that you have,
Mhm.
a little garlic and a little onion powder. Mix that together. You cut up a potato, and I was actually going to cut up a sweet potato and got a little lazy, so it was just a regular potato. And you put half the mixture on there, and you cook that in the pan for 30, 40 minutes. And then you also, at the same time, I was steaming some green beans, and
Mhm.
you take the potatoes out, you add the green beans, you put the chicken that you had marinating on there, and then whatever little sauce is left over, you add just a drop of mayonnaise and a bunch of Parmesan cheese to
Oh,
make it like a paste, and you
yeah.
brush it on top of there, and then you cook the whole thing for another 35, 40 minutes, and that was, dinner and a couple of lunches.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
if anybody has any ideas, pop it in the comments. I see there's three of you here right now, so let us know. I know a lot of my lives, especially with it being Sunday and early. A lot of people are out doing things or coming back from church or
Mhm.
whatever. So I get a lot on the repeats. So again, even in the repeats, pop them in the comments. We'd love to get some more ideas.
Yes.
I think Pam is a little bit better at this meal prepping than I am. So
I don't know. I guess just because I did it so long when I was doing keto, so I have um all my recipes that I did back then, I put them into Carb Manager so that when I would go
mhm,
to track my meals in my Carb Manager app, all I'd have to do was search for my particular recipe and throw that in. So that was definitely a help. But I'm going back looking through those recipes, like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. So it's kind of giving me ideas of what to meal prep now, because even though I do 3 meals or 2 meals or 2 to 3 meals each week, I try to find something that's easy because I'm like you, I am
mhm.
lazy. I don't want to spend all day. And I think that was part of the problem when I was doing keto and meal prepping. I would spend all weekend just about in the kitchen. And even Mondays, I would be in the kitchen because I'm off on Monday. So it would take me 3 days to do my meal prep. So I've kind of figured it out now where if I do one meal that I'm actually cooking at the stove or, that might require more work, and do something that's maybe in the instant pot or in the oven or the crock pot, I can just put that in, get that going, and then do my other meal. And I try to do things that take some of the same ingredients. So, like this week, I
Mhm.
have 2 different things that are using chicken breast. So that way I can try to cook it all, at the same time if possible. It just kind of cuts down on a little bit of the time. And now I'm usually only spending a couple of hours and I have food for the whole week.
Wow, that's
So
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about that, and they keep changing my hours at work because they're trying to figure out what works better. So, like, sometimes I'm working a 10-hour day, sometimes I'm working a 13-hour day. This week I've been working 15-hour days. And for somebody like me, I don't want to come home and cook after that because it's
Right.
almost my bedtime. So, like, lately we've been having factor meals for dinner, and I've just been worrying about what I'm going to have for lunch. As a matter of
Mhm.
fact, sometimes I've been taking the factor dinners for lunch and just
Mhm.
making like eggs or something really light because it's so
Yeah.
close to my bedtime when I get home
Right.
and eat something that I just don't want to have something that heavy. Um,
Yeah.
so I brought here some little props here. Okay,
Okay.
so this
Oops.
this I got these are keto buns for my meatloaf sandwiches. I don't know if I could get this. There we go. And basically there's 16 carbs, but there's 15 grams of fiber in each one. So it's one net carb, and the calories is 60 for the bun. I was going to get the bread, but I'm only going to be here, I think it's 3 days this week, and then I go on vacation. So I didn't want to have a whole loaf of bread
Right.
and so forth. So I figured the buns might be better. Um, and they were on sale. They were a little cheaper. So if
Yeah.
I do
Well,
waste any, that is a thing. And like to go with my reach in here, I bought cut up fruit. Let's see if I can get this in focus, which I'm going to bring with my meatloaf. And I know cut up fruit is a little bit more expensive, but again, time to me is kind of worth it.
right.
So, I will
Exactly.
sacrifice a little bit for the price so
Right.
that, I could have something healthy, have something fresh. Um, and I've found that a lot of these keto products, because we think about protein, protein, protein so much on these GLP-1 medications that we kind of forget about the fiber. And the
Right.
fiber is so important because constipation on these GLP-1s is real.
Right.
And
Yes.
anything we could do to help. Um, so,
Yeah.
that's
And
one of my little tricks.
I think again that's another thing that we're like opposites on as far as the cut up fruits. I love fruit,
Hmm.
but I don't want to spend a ton of money on it. And since I do have the time, I'm like, I'll go and buy the fruit and cut it up and put it in little serving size containers. And
Hmm.
that way I have it ready. And when I go to get it, it's already pre-portioned. So it's, just the opposite of what you're doing. And then you mentioned about the bread.
Oh, you
I
turned sideways again.
Oh, I don't know what is going on with my camera here.
There you go.
Let me just do it like that. And um, so since I was the only one in my family that was eating keto and I was the only one that would eat the keto bread, I would stick it in the
Hmm.
freezer and just when I want to eat some, I would take a
Yeah,
couple of pieces out and let it thaw out
I've
for a
done that
little.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, like I said, it's a good little way to get bread and keep it healthy and some extra fiber. So, Jazzy says hi, hi there.
Hi, Jesse.
Well, and we have Shaquille who helps me with my channel. Hi,
Hi, she
Shaquille. Thank you very much for joining us. Uh, Love to hear everybody's meal prepping ideas if you have any, because that's what today's live is all about. Um, for me, with the cut up fruit, I know that if I look at a melon or a watermelon or even a chunk of it, whatever you buy, I go, I gotta cut it up. I'm like, nah, forget it, because I come home, I'm tired, and I try to get up like an hour, hour and a half early before I go to
Mhm.
work, but that's more to work on my YouTube videos than it is to meal
Yeah.
prep. So, like I said, something's got to give, and for me, it's okay. I'll pay the buck
Right.
extra for the cut up fruit. Um,
Yeah.
that's all choice.
Right. It's all about what works best for you. And again, we're opposites on that. What works best for you is getting it pre-cut up and you're willing to spend that extra money. I'm on a
Hmm.
very tight budget. And I have the extra time. So what works best for me is to get it and pay the money for the full whole fruits and then cut it up
Hmm.
myself and save those, few dollars. so so
So
yeah,
I'm
I think
I'm
that's
kind
the big thing.
I'm kind of lucky because I've got this huge. It's a permanent farmers market right by me, so their cut up fruit is pretty inexpensive. I think that thing was
Wow.
$3.99,
Okay.
which yes, I could have bought the whole fruit a little bit cheaper because they do have them there cheaper, and I think this is a
Mhm.
little bit more than a half of a honeydew, but actually. It's actually called Dino Melon because
Oh,
honeydew
wow.
is coming out of season now, so they
Yeah.
actually import from other countries, places where it is. in season, and basically Dino Melon is a honeydew. I think
Mhm.
it's from South America or Colombia or something along those areas. So I'm kind of lucky with that way. But like now, like I'll also get apples, and those I don't have to buy cut up because this
Yeah.
is apple season.
Right.
And if I can't find something that's really good in season, grapes are always a good thing to have with it.
Mhm.
And grapes you could get anywhere. Uh, Hey Keely, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. We're talking about meal prep. The I think you know Pamela. Any of you who don't, hop on over to her channel. It's perfectly Pamela. Like, subscribe. She did have her name up there, but somehow that got taken
Yeah,
down when you.
I don't know what happened with
So
my camera. Let me see.
there we go.
There it
So
is.
there you can see. There's the name of her channel and stuff. So
Technical difficulties.
appreciate you all taking some time this Sunday. If you have any meal prep ideas or anything you want to say, pop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Um, so you have steak bites, you have chicken. What other types of things? Like I know a lot of times for me, again, because there's so many delis, they
Mhm.
have homemade soups, and yeah, to
Yeah.
me, you can't go wrong with a soup.
Yeah, I'm not into the soups right now, is because in Texas, and well, you're in Florida, so it's warm there
Mm-hmm.
too. But
Mm-hmm.
when it starts getting a little bit cooler, then I'll probably start adding more soups in. Another thing with the GLP ones, my taste has really changed. So things that I love, I'm like, sometimes I just don't want them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love, there's a chicken soup that I make with cabbage and broccoli and
Mm-hmm.
cauliflower and carrots and I throw in a ghost pepper to give it a little kick.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't wanted it lately, but I'm sure once the weather starts getting cold, I'm gonna probably add that in some chili. Definitely chili. That's one of my favorites. So
I think this is one of your people. Uh, Hi, Pamela. Just did a video on my food diary last week, which was the week I hit my target after 25 years. Woohoo!
yay.
Woohoo! Let's give her a woohoo. Uh,
Right.
135 pounds down. Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Trying to,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
let's,
That is.
looking for something here. There we go. Let's give her some confetti. So, thanks for commenting that. Um, and here we have, let's see, oh, that's my Nightbot. That's just to help mediate things here. So, again, if you're a content creator, if you put hashtag GLP1 in the comments, it'll give a link to your channel so that other people can check out your channel, like and subscribe. Um, Again, unlike me, the last couple of weeks, I actually also made my turkey chili because people tell me I make a pretty good turkey chili, and I make a big batch of that because, like, I could have that all week. The
Mhm.
trouble is, and I just actually did a video on it, is for some reason, like about 2.5 weeks ago, I was getting sick, and
Mhm.
I just didn't feel like having the lunch that I brought. So I walked over to Publix, which was in the same shopping center, and I was going to get some soup, and their soup just didn't look really good. But they had chili, so I had some chili, and I'm like, you know something, I should make a nice batch of chili. So I did, and I make it with ground turkey,
Mhm.
and it came out really good. And we had it, for a dinner, and then my wife and I had it all week long for lunch. And we're like, that was good. Let's have it again. But somehow by
Mhm.
the end of the second week, it's not that I was tired of chili. It's like I was almost looking for something else to eat because it was just too many
Right.
days in a row. So
Right.
you kind of have to be careful about how much you make and so forth, and give yourself a little variety, which the only reason I'm just did meatloaf this week is because I'm only working 2 days this week, so
Right.
it's not that big of a deal. Uh, I guess they're talking to each other. thanking them for congratulating them on weight goal. That's a great thing. I'm heading on my 11th month of being at goal weight. My goal weight was 118, and this morning I was 117. So I've been staying
Yeah.
pretty close to it. It doesn't have anything to do with meal prep. Just thought I'd add that in there since we were talking about goals. So, if
Yeah.
any of you want to put in your goals, you could do that too. Um, I, do you have a goal weight, Pam?
I don't necessarily have a number that is set in my mind. I'm thinking, based on my current body composition, that it's going to be somewhere around 130 ish. Because I know that I still have a lot to lose around like my hips and thighs and my arms. And I know we can't like target, oh, I'm going to lose weight off of my arms
Right.
this week. But I know that, based on what I've lost so far, that to be the size that I think I should be, it'll probably be about another, what is that, maybe another 20 pounds.
Hmm.
So,
That's
I'm
great.
close.
Uh, Thank you, Keely. That's like when I was getting towards my goal weight, and my goal weight changed several times. I
Mhm.
was like, I didn't have a number in mind. Now, granted, when I was an adult, my lowest weight was about 140, and once I hit there, I'm like, yeah, no, that's just not really cutting it. So, and that was my original target. And then I lost a little more. And I realized I'm not going to get down to where I was as a teenager because, my
Right.
body's different and things are different. So
Mhm.
when I reached 120, I was pretty happy. I just kind of added the 2 pounds just to make it an even
Mhm.
60, because
Yeah.
yeah. So, like I said, it's not an exact number. You kind of know it when you get there.
Right.
But meal prep,
Exactly.
meal prepping helps you get there. That's for sure.
Ex-
Because
Exactly. It definitely does.
I had that yesterday at work. It's like I brought what I wanted to eat, which was basically a breakfast type of meal. And that's
Mhm.
really what I wanted to have for lunch. And one of the managers, since they totally overbooked us, which they said was by accident, and I don't really think it was, but offered to buy us lunch and bought us pizza. But, the pizza came, and I'm like, you know something? I'm going to have what I brought. So, like,
Yeah.
I didn't have the pepperoni pizza. I had my eggs and sausage.
And
Turkey sausage.
that's another good thing about meal prep is like yesterday I wanted something sweet and I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to eat that's kind of sweet? So I'm looking in the refrigerator and we've got, of course, fruits and things, but then we've also
Mhm,
got, because I've got my kids here, so, and they're grown, so they buy their own stuff most of the time. But they've got their snacks in there too that, and it's, of course, we share, even no matter who buys,
mhm,
anybody can have anything. So I'm looking like, okay, there's a cake in here, or I have my little yogurt parfaits that I've prepped. So what do I want to do? And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Let's make the smart choice, and it's already prepped. All I've got to do is grab it and go. So, it definitely helps me to make better choices when it's already
absolutely.
there and ready.
Yeah, I'm sure it could have turned out totally different if you didn't have it prepped and you're like, "Oh, am I gonna make a parfait type thing or
Right,
just grab
exactly.
this that's here?" So,
Exactly.
uh, do you prep your sides with the, because I tend to like bring up fruit or like I'll make a coleslaw, so
Mhm,
that I could see what's in it or something along those
mhm,
lines. But I don't, you know, necessarily think too much on the sides or, if there's some leftover vegetables, but
mhm. I try to do the meals as completely as possible, just so that when I am ready to eat, everything is ready and all I have to do is heat it up. There are some things like last week I did birria tacos.
mhm,
So instead of actually putting the tacos together and having them just ready to heat up and eat, I had each of the ingredients separate, but already, the meat's already cooked and
Hmm.
everything is portioned out. So all I have to do is heat up the tortilla, throw the cheese on, heat up the meat and throw that on, and then put all my toppings on, and it's ready to go. So
Those looked
what would have
amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So what would have took probably 30 minutes or more if I was actually cooking the meat, to make, is already ready in like 5 minutes. So it makes it a lot easier for me. And even with the vegetables. So like for instance, this week I'm doing the steak bites and sweet potatoes and cabbage. If I was gonna cook the cabbage in the evening when I'm ready to eat my meal, then I'm standing over the stove. And, it's easier just to do it one time on either Sunday or Monday and have it ready for the week. And then I'm just pulling things out and heat it up and go. So,
Just a little tip for all of you watching this is like I bought microwave steamers, which work great for fresh vegetables, even cabbage. So you just pour the water on the bottom of it, and it's usually got like little legs that you could put the vegetables on so they're not in the water. And depending on the vegetable, usually 4 to 7 minutes in the microwave. And sometimes you just have to let it sit there. Like cabbage takes a little bit longer. You just let it sit there for an
right.
extra 5, 6 minutes, and it makes it super easy. Because again, I usually don't prep my vegetables when it's for when
Mhm.
I'm at home. I like the fresh vegetables, and if I buy them whole, I'll do that. Again, the farmers market that I have has, a big tray of them all cut up. You get just broccoli, cauliflower mixed, all sorts. And for me, they're pretty cheap because the
Mhm.
farmers market has them cheap. Otherwise, I do at the grocery store buy them in the little bag that you can pop in the microwave because,
Right.
again, I like my vegetables fresh. And, to
Yeah.
me, I'll have the meal, so the meal could be ready to go in 2 minutes or so, but the vegetable will also only take about 3 minutes in the microwave. So,
Yeah.
I have 7 minutes. I have dinner, lunch, whatever it is that I've prepped for.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Now, another thing, when I do cook my vegetables, I usually cook them a little less than what I would normally cook them, so
Hmm.
that when I'm reheating them, it kind of finishes them off so that they're not overcooked. Because that's the one thing I don't want is, stuff
No.
that's just limp and, you know, I mean, there's some things that I like my green beans. I like to cook them down until they're pretty mushy, but I still, when I'm prepping them, I don't cook them all the way. I cook them slightly less. And then when I reheat it, it finishes it off so that they're not overcooked.
So, do you prefer like the crock pot or actually just, cooking a big batch of something and breaking it up, or do you not have a preference?
It really depends on what it is. So
Hmm.
I like, for instance, my steak bites today. I'm cooking those in a pressure cooker because it
Hmm.
seems like I found that's the best way to get them really, really tender. And so what I do is I brown them on all sides, and then I throw
Hmm.
it in the pressure cooker with a little bit of beef broth, and then I let that cook it all the way through. And so it's really very minimal work just browning them and then putting them in there.
Hmm.
And so I let that go while I start cooking something else.
Now that it's supposedly wintertime, I mean, this is Florida. I mean, we make it down to 50. Uh,
Right.
I'm thinking like a stew or something would probably be good. Uh, Chicken stew or
Hmm.
beef stew for a meal prep in the pressure cooker or the crock
Yeah.
pot. And they both work really well. I think for stews,
Yeah.
I do kind of prefer the pressure cooker.
And see, I prefer the crock pot for a stew. And
Yeah,
again, it's just personal preference. For
absolutely.
For my vegetables in the crock pot, I feel like they get a little bit too soft. And so in the crock pot, they tend to, because I don't want, and I know you can like put your meat in and get that going and then come
Hmm.
back later and put your vegetables in so that they're not overcooking. But to me, it's easier to throw everything in the crock pot, let it go, and don't have to think about it until it's done. And so that I mean, but again, it's personal preference. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, and it's all about what works for you and finding what works for you.
Absolutely, and now that they make like so many combination type things that you could almost use some of this steam. I mean, the pressure cookers now as a crock pot. You know,
Mhm.
they have like a slow cook option on them, so you
Yeah.
know people don't have an excuse. I know personally, I think I have two pressure cookers and two sizes of crock pots because I never know if I'm going to make a big batch or just something small one
Yeah.
time meal type thing, and they're not expensive, so what the heck.
Right. Yeah, they're really not. Now I'm down to one of each. When I moved, my house here is so much smaller than what I had over at my last
Hmm.
house, so I gave a lot of stuff away. So my daughters got my extra. I had three crock pots. So they got those, and I kept one of the smaller ones because usually I'm not cooking for a bit. My kids do their own
Hmm.
thing now. So I'm usually just cooking for myself, and they may eat it or they may not. So,
And I've always learned that you do have the small one, but if you have the space, you could cook a small amount in a big crock pot or
mhm.
pressure cooker, but you can't do the opposite. So,
Right,
if
that's true.
price and you could only have one, you may want to think about the bigger one because you could cook
Right,
smaller in it. So, just a little hint because I know some of us don't want to have all these appliances and there is the cost of them, so just something to think about, you know help us
right.
save money, which is kind of what the meal prepping also does sometimes. For me,
Yes,
it
it
seems like
does.
when I do some of the meal prepping, it costs almost as much, so it's more of a time thing.
See, I think I do save a little bit of money because when I'm doing my meal prepping, I buy in bulk. So I'm meal prepping for me and my best friend because she does not cook, but she loves to eat.
Hmm.
so
Don't we
so
all?
so we usually I'll get bigger packages because usually the bigger the package, the lower the per pound prices,
Hmm.
like on meat. And so I'm saving a little bit of money there. And then, it's also helping me save money because on those nights that I really just don't feel like cooking, I don't have to. And in the past, if I had not meal prepped, guess what? I'm ordering pizza or I'm going
Right.
to, I'm going to pick up some kind of fast food somewhere. So I'm not doing that anymore.
To me,
So,
that's the biggest thing is it helps you make a better choice because you've got the
mhm,
choice there ready. You don't really even have to think about it. It's there. Like I said yesterday,
right.
I had my eggs and turkey sausage pizza. If I didn't have that there, or like it was anything a little bit more complicated, I probably would have chose that pizza just
Right.
just because it wasn't
Exactly.
there.
So now, Lori, when you do prep your meals, do you put them in individual containers or do you just cook your meal and then put it away and take out what you want each day,
It,
or
it
how do you do that?
usually, like I said, if it's like my chili, which was a big batch, like
Mhm.
I put in individual servings for two meals for both of us, and what was left, I had in a bowl, and I figured, well, when we're done with that, because we might want something different in between, we'll just scoop it out of there, and by that time, we probably would have done dishes and probably could use the same bowls and.
Yeah.
Uh, so I try to break it up. Now, the meatloaf, when I do this, I'll probably cut some up and put them in individual things, and I might leave half of it whole, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And depending on how the week goes, again, since I'm going away, I may end up freezing the rest of it because as I'm sure you do, if you buy in bulk, you could get those bags and those machines that suck the air out of it, so it doesn't lose much in the freezer and so forth. And, I use those a lot,
Yeah.
and that's kind of one reason why I stopped at the bulk places is because, well, first of all, where I moved here, there really isn't one close. I think the closest
Mhm.
one is about 35, 40 minutes away.
Hmm.
And again, there's a time thing, but
Right.
they're building one about a half a mile from my house.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a BJ's. So, I would
Hmm.
prefer Costco, but, BJ's has some good stuff. Uh, but,
Yeah.
when they open, it's probably gonna be a different story. I just checked, yes, in my closet of kitchen stuff, I do have that, machine that sucks the air out, so,
Hmm.
I'll have to check my bags when it's a little closer to opening up to make sure I have enough of them, and,
Hmm.
uh, probably go back to doing some bulk.
Yeah, I need to get one of those. I've been looking at those for a while, and I've never bit the bullet and bought one. And I
Uh,
guess I didn't
they're
really feel
worth it.
like I needed it. But yeah, I'm finding that sometimes, especially, being on a GLP-1, sometimes you just don't want to eat, or I'm eating, even though I'm portioning my meals out. Sometimes I'm only eating half of what I've portioned out. So then that other
Mhm,
half ends up being another meal. So I may prep 5, 6 meals, but I end up with 12 a lot of times because
mhm,
I'm only eating half. And so at the end of the week, I'm like, or towards the end of the week, if I see that I'm not going to finish eating all my meals, I'll start putting stuff in the freezer. And I figure if I
right,
have that, I can, at least wrap them up to make sure that they're staying fresher,
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know.
you don't have to worry about freezer burn, most of the stuff is
Right.
good for, like, a year. If you can't tell what it is, you could just take a Sharpie and write right on it. You could put the
Mhm.
date on it so you know what's, older and so forth, and,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
to me, it's worth it. I think you can get them for, like, 50, $60 now,
Yeah.
the bags. You could reuse the bags. They sell them pre-cut. You could, most of the things have a thing that where you could cut them right there, and sorry, my cat just did a run through here. Uh, so, they say you could wash the bags, you could even put them in the dishwasher. Like, if they're not bad, sometimes I'll wash them out, turn them inside out to dry, but I tend to not
Yeah.
reuse them too much.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite thing to prep? Your favorite meal to prep in advance?
I love my chili, so, that's one. But I do like, when I make a chicken dish, because, there's only 2 of us. If I'm gonna make it for dinner, it's kinda silly just to make 2, make at least 4, and then you'll at least have a lunch or another dinner,
Hmm.
depending on it. So, chicken a lot of times. I tend to eat a lot of fresh seafood, so with that, I don't meal prep. I buy it fresh what we're gonna
Hmm.
eat. So it's usually more chicken. Uh, I don't mind steak that way, but my wife likes her steak very rare. So the fact of reheating it would probably make it too well done for her. Now,
Hmm.
I've done things like pot roast, which that it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. A little bit more fatty of a meat, and when I do make that, usually that's in the crock pot. I use very little
Hmm.
potatoes, just enough so that we could get like one little potato, so that
Uh-huh.
we know it's pot roast potato, carrots, celery, whatever, but uh,
Right.
I don't mind that. But like I said, that's just something I would put in like on a Sunday morning, and by early evening, I could cut it up and
Hmm.
and divide it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Anything really that can go in the crock pot is definitely a winner for me because, again, I'm lazy. I want stuff that is as hands off as possible. So if it can go in the crock pot, the pressure cooker, or in the oven, that's a great choice for me.
And for me, I've been looking at a lot of these one pot, one pan meals, which is how
Hmm.
I found that last chicken recipe. And I was thinking of maybe starting up a cooking thing again. For a while, it was popular on mine, and then it kind of died a little bit.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of editing because you gotta like show
Yeah.
parts. Yeah. So I just might put a little section of links of recipes that I found uh,
Hmm.
to help people. Again, I haven't decided which way on that I'm going to go, but I'm definitely at least going to do a thing of links for people to get some ideas. And for me, those one pot things, it's like maybe 20 minutes of work, and even if, you
Yeah.
pop it in the oven and cook it for an hour, let it cool, or
Yeah.
crock pot type things, Either
Yeah.
way, I want to incorporate some of that into my channel. I noticed that you have some cooking segments on yours.
I actually was just thinking recently because, my channel is, well, I say fairly new. I've been doing this for almost a year now, but I never really decided on what the focus of my channel was going to be. Because really, when I started, it was just, and not trying to get off topic, I'm going to swing it
Hmm.
back around.
Oh,
Um,
that's fine.
but when I started my channel, it was really not to try to get subscribers or get monetized or anything like that. It was mainly just to document my journey for my own accountability. And so it just kind of evolved. and and I was like, okay, well, what can I do to make my channel more beneficial to others? And of course, being that I'm starting to meal prep again, and I think that that's something that is very helpful, or at least it's been very helpful for me. I was like, okay, I can kind of make my channel a little bit more, of course, still following my journey, but how I'm incorporating my meal prepping into it,
Hmm.
and start showing a little bit more of my process of meal prepping, how I come up with my meals, and what how I put together my recipes, and how I use my carb manager app to create the recipes so that
Hmm.
it can calculate out my macros. And that way, when I'm going to track, all I do is search for my recipe and put it in. And, I've got my meal tracked. So I'm thinking that that's going to kind of start showing a lot more in my videos coming up.
Ah, that's great. You were saying, when I started my channel also, I never even thought about monetization or anything like that.
Right.
Uh, and I was actually discussing this with somebody else. And, as you start to get a little bit closer, you're like, you know, okay,
Yeah.
and to me, like what I was saying to my friend was, it's kind of like a non-scale victory with GLP-1 for YouTube.
Yeah.
I monetized. I didn't plan on it, but it's like a non-scale victory in the YouTube
Right.
world. Yeah, because we're not
Exactly.
going to make much. Yeah,
Right. Oh, yeah.
it's
Definitely
just
not.
it's
I
just a
mean,
little like like a
right.
goal, or
It,
like I
it
said,
may
a
pay for
non-scale
one of my meal
victory.
preps. So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely not much unless you've got millions of subscribers and
Right,
millions of views. It's not going to be a whole lot. You'll get more off of your sponsorships probably than anything else,
right.
but yeah, I
But yeah,
mean,
it's
again, that's not really where my focus is. My focus is how
mm,
can I be beneficial to others, because I've got,
absolutely
as my subscriber count is going up, I don't want to just be putting out content. Oh, this is what I did this week, and this is my wins. What about how am I helping others, and what can
right.
I do? Well, I think that I'm a pretty good cook. My friend tells me I'm an amazing cook. And, my family seems to love my food. So I was like, that's something that I can do, that I'm good at, that I feel like I can use to help other people who maybe they're beginning to learn how to cook, or maybe they're not sure how to meal prep or what to meal prep. So,
Right.
things that I can do to help somebody else.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed with meal prepping is you get to control it. Like me, I'm not against processed food. I mean, I have a protein shake. I have my Profi right here, which I know is processed
Yeah,
food, but I try to keep it to a minimum. And at least I think to me, a protein shake is a good choice of a processed food. So you get to decide what's going into there, what ingredients are in
yeah,
there, and if they're whole ingredients, fresh ingredients, and so forth. Where
yeah.
if you buy something, even me, like buying it from the deli, I'm taking the word of the manager of what they put in there. But
Right,
is it the
right.
truth? I'm hoping
And
so, and it seems to be working for me. But if you go into like the freezer section or of the grocery store, that there's stuff you can't even pronounce in there. So
right,
you get
right.
to control this at least.
Right, you're exactly on point with that. You can control how much seasoning you're putting in, how
Mhm.
little or how much, depending on your taste preference, how much salt you're putting in there. And that's one thing that's huge with a lot of those frozen meals. The sodium is outrageous. And
Mhm.
if your electrolytes are low, sodium is good or it's beneficial for you. But if you're eating those meals that have like 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of sodium, that's a bit much, especially if you're eating them
Mhm.
2 or 3 times a day. So that's another thing that I like is I can control how much I'm putting in. Now you mentioned factor meals earlier.
Mhm.
And their meals are really delicious. I love
Mhm.
almost everything that I've ever gotten from Factor.
Sure,
I
there's a
love.
couple I didn't like, but that's just
Yeah,
personal choice.
yeah. But even with those, sometimes I find myself adding a little bit of seasoning to make it taste a
Mhm.
little bit better. And so that's the one thing that I like over buying something pre-made is you can do it the way that you like it.
Right.
And it's still just ready to go. And yeah, you might spend a few hours one day out of the week prepping all the stuff, but then for the rest of the week you're good.
Mhm. Now, let's see here. This is Joe. Hi, Lori and Pamela. Hi, everyone. You're not well today and going to watch from the bushes. I'll catch the
Um,
replay later. Feel better, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, hope you feel better. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, she's had a rough couple weeks with her
Yeah.
CPAP machine. So,
Mhm.
when you don't get enough sleep, yeah,
Right.
I had that this week because like they put me on these like 15-hour shifts because the person's on medical leave, which is like why, you know, my meals have been a little bit off because I'm just so
Mhm.
tired and I don't like working 15 hours, especially when 15 kind of turns into 15 and a half, 16 hours,
Right.
the paperwork
Yeah.
and so forth. So, but you got to cover for people when they're on medical leave. So,
Right.
I
Yeah.
know how important sleep is because this week I haven't quite been myself because I've cut an hour of sleep every night. And and the
Hmm.
only reason I agreed to do it is because I go on vacation, so I'll be able to catch up with it. So it's a kind
Yeah.
of like only a 10-day thing that I've been doing that. So
Yeah.
back to meal prepping. When I made my chicken all in one, with the green beans and the potatoes and Parmesan, the recipe that I saw uh, called for a little bit more olive oil in the marinade. I use less because I just
Hmm.
wanted to, and a little bit more lemon juice.
Yeah.
Again, you could control it. And like I said, when you make that like paste stuff, with the Parmesan, they wanted you to, they wanted, I think, 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and I basically used
Hmm.
one of light mayonnaise because I'm
Yeah.
trying to get it a little bit healthier. And I know nothing's off limits, and it still was.
Yeah.
I think I made like 6 or 8 pieces of chicken. When you take 1 tablespoon and you divide it by 8, it's not much, but you
Right.
still have to know it's there. Yeah.
Right. And the difference between taking one and dividing it by eight versus taking three and divided it by eight,
Mm,
that's the difference in the fat that you're getting, so it is good that you can control what you're putting in your meals and you know exactly what it is. Like some people prefer the avocado mayonnaise versus the regular
right.
mayonnaise because they don't like the particular types of oils or, the inflammatory oils that they use in most regular mayonnaises, so you can use what you want. It's
That was one.
limitless.
That was one thing that I made. I probably haven't made it in a few months. Is when I have leftover chicken, or sometimes if I buy a rotisserie chicken, and since there's only 2 of us, there's plenty of chicken left over. So I, take off the skin, cut it into pieces, and I made a chicken salad. But instead of mayonnaise, I used avocado. Smash it up with some
Yeah.
lime and cilantro, a little bit of salt and seasoning. It looked kind of weird because I'm not used to a green colored. Uh, Chicken salad, but it
Right.
tasted great.
Yeah, yeah, I love avocado. I haven't tried that yet, and I think it's probably like you said, the green colors kind of threw me off, but I can definitely try that. And I want to touch on something because you just said something that I think is very helpful. If you don't have time to meal prep, you can still meal prep by taking shortcuts. Like you said, you got a rotisserie chicken. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
cook the chicken. You can buy some
Right.
things that are pre-made and then prep your
Right.
meals out of that. That was one thing back when I was in my keto days and I was meal prepping. I was prepping then breakfast, lunch, and dinner for two people, sometimes three
Mm-hmm.
people. And so that was one of my shortcuts. I would get the rotisserie chicken and just cut it up. And that was one of the meals was rotisserie chicken and maybe some cauliflower risotto. And
Mm-hmm.
and that was another, quick, easy thing is I would get the green giant cauliflower risotto in the bag and just
Mm-hmm.
pop it in the microwave. And then after it's cooked in the microwave a little bit, I would saute it in a pan with a little bit of butter just to add a little bit of extra flavor and make sure it was as tender as I wanted. But yeah, meal's done. And like 5 minutes, I have 10 meals out of a rotisserie chicken.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And you can't beat the cost,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
you buy your rotisserie chicken at some of these bulk food places,
Right.
it's
Sam's or
even less
Costco.
expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
$5 for a rotisserie chicken.
And what did you get? 5, 10 meals out of that? Yeah.
And well, actually 8 meals out of one chicken because you got each
Uh,
side and,
hmm.
breast and then the legs and thighs, because I would just cut it in quarters.
Right.
So yeah, 8 meals out of one chicken. So if you get into for $10, you got, what is that, 16 meals? That's pretty good.
Hell with the dollar meal, if they even still have that. It's been so long since I've been to a fast food place. Yeah.
Mhm, right. Yeah. And imagine what you're getting for the dollar is so much higher
Right.
in calories and, fats and carbs versus a chicken breast or a chicken leg and some,
Hmm.
cauliflower risotto or whatever vegetables. It's so much healthier.
So I want to show this. Like, I just put this Nightbot on my live. So Joe put, like I said, if you're a content creator, if you type in hashtag GLP1, you'll get this message. And that link is a clickable link to Joe's channel. So she was testing it because she helped me set it up to make sure it's working. So if any of you are content creators, hashtag GLP1, and your channel will come up there. And hopefully I'll have time later to go in, sort them out, and put the links in the replay.
Yes,
So sorry
definitely.
to get off subject, but I'm trying to help as many people out here as I can. Yeah,
Right. And yeah, if you do have time, please, because I'd like to go in and help support all of the people who I'm not already subscribed to.
it's pretty easy because they have a little control thing that if I type
Mhm.
it, the links will just pop up, and then I could just copy and paste. So it should be
Okay.
fine. People are just saying hi to Joe. Oh, Grace is here. Hi, Grace.
Hi, Grace.
Hey, Pam. Hi, Lori. Uh, Grace, we're talking about meal prepping. I know you're huge on meal prepping. So if you have any meal prepping ideas, pop them into the comments. We've covered some chicken stuff. Did you mention, Pam, how you made those tacos?
Okay, so the burrito tacos, I got that, and this was just a spur. This was not something that I had pre-planned I was going to do. I was in Aldi and I saw the
Mm-hmm.
package of the pre-seasoned burrito roast meat or roast beef, and I was like, I wonder if this is any good. Let me just pick it up and try it. And so all you do is throw that in the crock pot with a cup of beef broth. And so I did that. I put it on high for about 5 hours and just let it do its thing. And then the taco, the tortillas, I bought the pre-made tortillas from the bakery at our local HEB. And I just bought the pre-shredded
Mm-hmm.
cheese and I got some onion and some cilantro, cleaned that, chopped it up, and had that already pre made or whatever, prepped. And so when it was time to eat them, what I would do is I would pull out just enough of the meat for two tacos and heat that up in the microwave. And while that's heating up, I would just heat up my tortillas in a pan with about a tablespoon of avocado oil, and then put, a little handful of cheese on the tortillas. Throw the meat on half of the tortilla and then fold it in half and then flip it on the other side, let it cook through, and then just top it with the onion and cilantro. So 5 minutes to to finish prepping what I had made, and they
Hmm.
were delicious. I will say, if you have an Aldi around you, if you can find it, that was the first time I had ever seen that. It
I'll
was
have to
really
try that.
good. It was really
I, I've
good.
I'm almost ashamed to say I've never been in an Aldi.
Oh my God, Lori. Is there one around you?
There actually are two of them around me.
You've got to go. Now, I don't do a whole lot of grocery shopping there.
Hmm.
A lot of their Aldi brand, I think it's Berman. I don't really
Hmm.
care for. I prefer, either name brand or even like our HEB, the HEB store brand. I prefer that over the Aldi brand of most things. I will say the Clancy's, oh God, you said it earlier, pork skins
Hmm.
are delicious. Those are my favorite pork skins. I prefer those over Max, over there's a whole bunch of other brands, but those are my favorite pork
Hmm.
skins, or the Clancy's ones. And I would use those when I make my meatloaf. That's what I do. I grind those up and put those in my meatloaf to save on the carbs.
Yeah,
So,
it's again, like I usually go to the grocery store after the gym, and there's a
mhm.
Publix, which is our main grocery store, like literally right next to the gym. And then I go to
uh,
the farmers market, and I'm kind of like, do I want to go to a third store? Well, we have
yeah.
Darium there. Hi, Darium. He's saying
Hey, Miriam,
hi,
the king
and
has
calling you a
arrived.
show. There he is. Hi, community. Let's see what else is going on here. Uh, I'm using my ripe avocados to make Pamela's taco salad. Oh, you didn't mention the taco salad. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
no, that's the same one. Sorry. Uh, your burrito tacos, they do look good. Okay, they're all saying hi to each other. Again, if you're a creator and you put hashtag GLP1, your channel will come up, and I could then share the links in the description when I post this. Um, so tell us some other things that you made, Pam.
Well,
You seem
since
to be
she
more of a
mentioned
chef
the
than me.
since she mentioned the taco salad, that is another one that is super easy. And again, so when I'm prepping, my thought process is, what can I make that is going to be easy, so I'm not spending all day or all weekend like I used to do in the kitchen, and I'll have enough meals for me and my best friend to last us throughout the week. So I usually try to get at least 10 meals per person. So that's lunch and dinner for the week, for the weekdays. And so the taco salad, it was super easy. All I did was I got some romaine lettuce, and you can even buy, if you like ice. I'm not a fan of iceberg. To me,
Mm,
iceberg tastes a little
it's okay.
grassy. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, so I prefer the romaine, but I just bought the cheapest heads of romaine, the ones I didn't get the pre-chopped romaine. I didn't get the ones that are
Lazy.
just the hearts. And see that
Time
money,
saving.
budget, budget, cost savings. So I just got the cheapest heads of romaine. I got two of them, and washed those up, set it aside to let the leaves dry off. And then I got the pre-shredded cheese. I got some
You didn't
the my
shred it yourself?
no, I mean, if I had wanted to save on carbs, I would. Yeah, and I have a food processor that I would use to just put the cheese in there. And I do that sometimes, but if I'm trying to meal prep and I'm trying to have it take as little amount of time as possible, then yeah, I'll get the pre-shredded cheese. I don't mind the little, it's not very much carbs for the amount
No.
of that you're using. So I got the pre-shredded cheese, and then I used ground beef and taco seasoning, and I got avocados and some red onions, and I bought the steamable Mexican style corn with the peppers in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even heat that up. All I did was let it defrost. And so I portioned everything out. I just cooked my ground beef, added the taco seasoning, let that cook down, made sure I drained all the oil from it that I could, and then just put everything. I bought the little round meal prep containers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sorted everything. I did make my ranch from one of the little Hidden Valley Ranch packets, and I used the Fairlife milk,
Mm-hmm.
the skim milk from Fairlife, and it does call for mayonnaise. So like a cup of each of those in the little packet and just mix it up. And I prefer that over the store-bought ranch, the pre-made ranch. For some
Mm-hmm.
reason, it just tastes better to me. If you the the ranch dip that you have or that you get from Wingstop, to me, that's like the best ranch ever. And that's what it tastes like. You just add a little bit more milk than what it calls for to make it a little bit runnier, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I make that, and then I also made, oh, I used salsa. So I did have salsa, and I had some crema, the little Mexican sour cream. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just pre-portion everything, throw it in there, and I do weigh everything out. That again is me because I'm wanting to track everything. But if if you're just wanting to meal prep, you don't have to weigh everything out. You can just
No.
sort it, into what looks like portion sizes. For me, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right amount of protein. So I cooked for all of my meals. I do almost like a double portion of meat just to make sure that I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting that extra protein. And I'll cut
Right.
back on the lettuce or, the other toppings to make sure that I'm getting more meat in. But I did on that one, I did put my meat in a separate container so that I could heat that up without, having to put a whole
Right.
bowl of salad in the
Yeah.
microwave. So,
Good. Good. Good thought. Yeah,
yeah.
one of the things I also notice with meal prepping is I try to get stuff because not only do you have to meal prep, you have to clean up. So I try to keep it so that the cleanup is a little bit minimal. I don't want to use
Mhm.
18 dishes
Right.
and things that food processor that you have to clean out. I don't mind
Right.
using a food processor if that's the only thing, if everything else is basically in a one dish type thing. But,
Right.
I also try to keep that in mind when I'm meal prepping because, you know, it could take you a couple hours, but you don't want to spend another hour cleaning up afterwards.
Exactly. That's why for me I love the crock pot meals, or something I can stick in the oven, because again it's one pan going in the oven, or it's just the crock pot. And so the cleanup is minimal. While if I'm doing other things like the salad was a little, I mean really it was just the one pan for the ground beef,
Mm-hmm.
cooking that. But then I had the cutting board that I'm cleaning between cutting different things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
And
still
cutting
it's
boards are
it's
easy to clean though.
minimal. Yeah, it's minimal. So, you know, and
Because,
usually if I'm cooking different meals on the stove, if I have more than one meal, I'll try to do them in the same pot if possible, so that I'm not
mm-hmm.
having to spend a whole lot of time cleaning up afterwards. I'll just wash it out real quick and then,
Mm-hmm.
go to my next meal.
That's, good tip there. Uh, so talk to me about your little, because I just use like a lock and lock, uh, and I'll put them in separate containers. I don't have an exact, where it's portioned out. Tell me about what kinds of containers you found to put all this in.
Okay, most of the containers that I use, I get off Amazon because I can get them in
Hmm.
bulk. I do sometimes get them from the grocery store because a lot of grocery stores now carry the little meal prep containers, but it's basically the same thing. I have different ones and it depends on what I'm making. So I have the ones that are just like one rectangular thing, or
Hmm.
the bowls now. So it's where it's just one compartment. And depending on what I'm cooking, I will just put everything in there. If I'm cooking things, like I'm a little picky about certain things, I don't want certain things to touch. Like I don't want, if I'm having roast and maybe I'm having, I don't know, well, whatever I'm eating. But if it's something I don't want the juice to get all in something else, then I'll use the one that has separate compartments. So I have one that's got two compartments, and then I have one that has three compartments. And then I also have sometimes I'll use foil containers so that
Hmm.
if it's something I don't want to heat up in the microwave, I'd rather cook it, heat it in the oven or the toaster oven, then I want it to already be in a container that I can just put in the oven.
Hmm.
And so like for instance, this week I'm doing the chicken pot pie. That will go in a foil container so that I can reheat it in the oven simply because it's got that biscuit on top and I don't
Right.
want that biscuit going in the microwave. So I just have different ones that I use for different things depending on what it is.
Because I kind of bought two giant sets of lock and lock, that
Hmm.
stack in each other and probably have like 15 pieces each. So there's all different sizes. So like I'll
Yeah.
just put like the meat in one, whatever I'm going to take, if there's vegetables, whatever in the other. But like I said, if I don't have a vegetable, I'll grab a yogurt or some fruit, things like that. And I'll, you know, yogurt, you don't have to put anything, but the fruit I'll put in, a smaller lock and lock, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've thought about switching to the containers, but like I said, if I'm going to bring something that's hot, cold, that's kind of hard.
Yeah. And I do have some oven safe glass containers that if I was
Hmm.
just prepping for myself, that's what I would use. But because I'm giving half of these meals to my friend and I don't want her to have to wash everything and get it back
Right.
before I prep the next meals, it's just easier to put them in something like that. If I'm running low on the containers, I'll do hers in the little plastic ones and put mine in the glass one so that way I can stick those in the oven or in the microwave. And so people who are, I guess, more earth conscious than me, I'm more convenience conscious than earth conscious right now, and I know that's probably not the best way to be, but
Hmm.
I'm thinking about convenience. And if you don't want to buy all that plastic that is eventually going to go in the trash, or the foil ones go in the trash
Hmm.
after every use, I do wash out the plastic ones and reuse those as much as I can until they start kind of looking like, okay, no, you
Right.
don't want to use this. Then the glass ones are definitely a good option because you just wash them and reuse them, and again, they're versatile. They can go in the microwave or in the oven or the toaster oven.
Yeah, and I don't know about there in Texas, but just a cost saving thing. Uh, by me, I have two restaurant supply stores that are open to the public.
Hmm.
And like they have an entire row of anywhere from styro to plastic
Yeah.
to glass, that you could buy in bulk, along with just like the little cups for
Mhm.
with the lids for the sauces and stuff like that, and they have them in bulk
Yeah.
for pretty low prices. If you're looking to save money or
Yeah.
have the room to store it.
We do have one. It's not I mean, it's not extremely far, but it's not real close to me. Again, convenience, Amazon, it comes right to my door.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
so I love that.
Again,
And the
I don't know the
prices are
difference in
pretty
prices
good.
because I really haven't bought too many of those, but just
Yeah.
putting it out there for people to check into because
Right. Yeah.
with
I'm
some
gonna
of them
have to
cost
check that out.
is a thing.
I'm gonna have to go to that restaurant supply sometime when I'm on that side of town and just check it out and see if it's more cost savings than the ones on Amazon. Then I might start doing that because I don't buy them very often. I usually buy, like, I just reordered, and I think the foil ones were maybe 100 of them in a pack, and I think the plastic ones were like 150 in a pack
Hmm.
for around $20 to $25 each.
Yeah, you
So
can't. It's how much. What are you going to save, a buck or two? Yeah.
right, yeah. So
Is it
yeah.
worth the gas to get over to the other?
Yeah, that's what I said. If I'm in that area, then I'll
Right.
check it out.
So that's the thing with me with the restaurant supply thing. It's right by Hot Works where I usually go to like 3 times a week, except that
Mhm.
I tend to go there around 6:30 in the morning, and they're not open at that hour.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the other thing, is catching them when they're open. So yeah, but you can usually again find just about anything on Amazon. So,
Absolutely. I think that's where I got my ground up pork rinds that I
oh,
used
okay.
in my meatloaf. I think I was talking about to somebody and they were doing keto and they mentioned that and I'm like, "Man, that might be an interesting thing to
Mhm,
try since well, one, I'm on maintenance, so
mhm,
if it's a little bit more calories or a little bit more fat, it's not the worst thing for me. And I don't use a lot because my wife still is trying to lose weight. And getting back to that, like I never really tracked my food. I
mhm.
had a somewhat idea, unless for some reason if I gained weight and I couldn't, relate it to like, oh yes, you went out to dinner and that was salty or was in a stall. When I was in a
Yeah.
stall, everything got tracked. My activity got
Mhm.
tracked, my food got tracked because I needed to make sure what I thought I was eating was actually what I was eating.
Right, right. And that's definitely when I was again, I mentioned when I moved, I kind of fell off track. I was eating out a lot more, picking up fast food more, and so trying to get back on track and doing the meal prep, that's when I had even stopped tracking. When I first started, I
Mhm.
was tracking every single thing that I put in my mouth. It went in my Carb Manager app. And not sponsored, but I love the Carb Manager app. And I don't really have a whole lot of others to compare it to. I have tried my Fitness Pal, but I just keep going back. I guess I'm a creature of habit. I keep going back to what I'm used to. And what I like about the Carb Manager app is I can go up, and I don't have the paid version, but I can go up in the recipes and I can create my own recipes.
Mhm.
So I just put in everything that I'm putting in my meal that I'm prepping. I'll put how much I'm using. So, like if I'm using 2 pounds of chicken and I'm using one onion and two bell peppers, I'm just going to throw that in there.
Right.
And then I can tell it how many meals I'm making out of that. So, typically for 2 pounds of chicken, I'm probably going to make 4 meals. So, about a half pound per meal, and it will calculate how much the entire meal is in calories, carbs, protein, and then it will tell you for one portion it will be this many calories, this many carbs, this much protein, this much fat,
Mhm.
and so then when I go to log that I'm eating that meal, I just go to my recipes and say, this is what I ate, and I ate one portion. Or if I only eat half of it, which I did say sometimes I'm pulling those meals out and I can't even eat the whole thing. So if I only ate
Right.
half of it, I can put in there that I ate half and it'll automatically calculate that amount.
That's
And
great.
so, yeah. So it has really helped me to get back to tracking again, because again, I went 2 months without tracking anything. So it was
And
hard
I
to
do
get back.
want to put it out there that if you haven't meal prepped, there are some smarter options out there as far as takeout. Chick-fil-A has grilled chicken nuggets. I believe that Starbucks just came out with some new higher protein. They have like sandwiches that are like, I think they're between 500 and 600 calories for the sandwich. I think the Countess of Shopping just did a review on them and gives you the macros and so forth. So there are smarter choices. I know Starbucks has the egg bites, and one of the ways that they cut down on some of the calories and added the protein is they actually blend cottage cheese into their egg bites to get them fluffier instead of milk. So just putting it out there. If you haven't meal prepped, you can make some smarter choices. It doesn't have to be bad choices.
Yeah. And it doesn't, meal prepping does not necessarily mean that you're standing there cooking every single thing. Again, the rotisserie chickens are a good choice to, cut down an hour's worth of cooking time cooking your chicken.
Hmm.
So, there are healthier options that you can get that you can incorporate into your meal prep as well. So,
And another thing people could do, like I always found this harder, but some people are able to. I think now that I'm on a GLP-1, it's easier. but I never used to be able to make a large dinner to have enough for leftovers the next day without accidentally eating it. Now that I'm on GLP-1 medication, that really isn't a problem. So, if you're making yourself something for dinner and it's good and you want it for lunch, make a little bit extra if you could, pack it
Mhm.
away for another lunch or another dinner. You don't have to eat it 2 days in a row. You could have something in between. Um,
Mhm.
just some other little points that way you're cooking anyhow. Just adding a little extra shouldn't be much of a problem.
Right, right.
'Cause
I think,
you don't have to meal prep every single meal if you don't want to. If you want to, I
right,
think that's great
exactly.
and it's smart.
Yeah. And even like you were saying that with some of the meals you don't separate out every single meal. If you might put like your leftover chili, you might put that in, and then when it's time to eat, you're just pulling out the amount that you want. So meal prepping doesn't necessarily mean that you're pre-portioning and pre-packaging out everything. It just means that you're preparing your meals in advance. So I take it that extra step just because I want to be able to just grab and go, but you don't even have to do that.
And the fact that I didn't separate that, like I was, going to have a specific thing for dinner one night, and I changed my mind because I opened up the refrigerator and there was the chili, and right next to it was the eggs. So I'm like, let's make a chili omelet.
Oh, wow.
And I made enough so that we had some for the next day or the day
Yeah,
after,
yeah,
So, it was right there kind of staring at me, and, poof, the idea just kind of came to my head, and simple,
yeah.
easy.
And you know what? That's another thing you just brought to my mind is like sometimes when I'm planning out the meals that I want, I will like say for instance, if I wanted to do birria tacos again, I might do the roast, but not season it with that birria seasoning until the very end. I will take out some of the roast and maybe cook something to go alongside of that, and then use some of it for my birria tacos. So I'm using one meal to make two different meals, if that makes
Right,
sense.
right.
So,
Well, kind of wrapping it up, any last meal prepping ideas? Anybody have any comments, anything they want us to mention, any of their ideas? Pop it in the comments. Again, I do kind of cheat by using delis, but once in a while I do meal prep. And like I said, it really came in handy yesterday when they bought us pizzas, and I had another choice because had I not had it, I would have given in and probably had a piece or two of the pepperoni pizza. But
mhm,
I had what I wanted, so it really wasn't a temptation.
yeah. And again, for me, having multiple options prepared, it definitely helps because I might not want this today. After a few days, I was like, I don't necessarily want the birria tacos right now, so let me eat the hot wings instead. Just
Hmm.
having one option, I probably would have said, you know what, I'm really not
Hot
feeling birria
wings?
tacos.
Tell me
Yeah.
about those hot wings.
So, I mean, the hot wings were very basic. There's two ways that I do them, and it just depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes after I clean my chicken, I season it and let it sit in the seasoning for a few hours, and then I'll either cook it in the air fryer or I will pan fry them in some avocado oil. And I ended up doing that this time, even though I had intended to do it in the air fryer. There was just so much because I was making so, for two people. I
Mhm.
ended up doing it on the stove in the avocado oil and just fry it for a little bit, seasoning and all. And then I used a jar of or a bottle of the garlic hot wing sauce, and just again, I weighed out everything. So I pre-portioned all the wings into the little containers, and then I just put enough sauce on each one, you know, and mixed it up in the container so that they each had the sauce on, the same amount of sauce on them.
When
So
you weigh it, do
pretty
you weigh it
simple.
cooked or do you weigh it raw?
I weigh it cooked because what I'm doing is when I'm finished cooking, so I kind of have an idea of, I counted how many pieces there were. And so it was like each meal was going to be six wings. And or, six
That's a
wing
nice
portions.
that's a nice size meal.
I couldn't eat them. I could only eat, I think the most I ate was five at a time. So I still have like a half a meal left in there because I would throw my one extra wing back in the refrigerator. So yeah, I still have some in there, but yeah, for my friend's not on a GLP-1, so six wings is nothing to her. So but yeah, I weigh it after I cook it. I knew that each one was going to be about six wings, so I just tried to get them about the same amount. But then the
Hmm.
sauce is definitely, it was the same grams each one, and I don't remember offhand what it was, but I just looked at the bottle, and the bottle was however many grams. I divided it by how many meals I had, so I knew each meal got this amount, and just poured it on there. So that was an easy one. And then I
Sounds
had my
great.
cut up carrot sticks and celery and the ranch dip that I had made. I had that for that as well. So,
This is giving me some good ideas because when I go away, we're staying at a timeshare, so there is a kitchen. Yes, it is, a little bit limited, but I don't want to eat out every single meal. That's like,
right. Yeah.
and I'm good with the protein shake for breakfast,
Mhm.
and having one of these for a lunch or dinner, and having a few of them, makes it easier because again, we have things we want to do on vacation, but to go out twice a day to a restaurant, that's just too much.
Yeah, it is. It gets a little expensive too. Again,
Hmm.
I'm all about the budget. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I say that I'm not, but I am. It's like I have a certain amount that I could spend.
Right.
Lately I've been working a lot of overtime, so it has gone up just a little bit. But when that goes away, my fresh fish might go from swordfish to mahi, which is a little bit cheaper.
Hmm.
Or something along those lines, a little bit more cod maybe, which is a little less expensive.
Hmm.
Again, a
Yeah.
little more meal prepping. The chili is pretty inexpensive. Meatloafs
Right.
are pretty inexpensive. So there is a certain amount that I do spend.
Mhm.
It's the cut of vegetables and fruit that are the big thing. And when that happens, if I can't get it from the deli already ready to just pop in the microwave, that's fine. I can meal prep.
Right.
Because I'll have more time then.
Yeah. And that's another thing, as far as budget wise, what I try to do when I'm trying to think of what meals I want to do, I will look and see what I have already in my freezer and what can I
Hmm.
use up or what ingredients do I have in my cabinet that I can make a meal prep out of so that I'm limiting the amount that I have to buy each week. So that
Well, right
definitely
now
helps.
my freezers are pretty bare. It's about time for me to restock them because in Florida we have the
Mm.
hurricanes, and I've lost freezers worth of food during those hurricanes, and it's not fun, and that
Oh
is
yeah,
expensive. So I try not to
definitely.
have too much, at least during the peak of hurricane season, in my freezer. So yeah, I've been a little bit bare there. So
Speaking of, I know there's a hurricane brewing out there right now. Are y'all safe for that or
yeah, no,
it's
that's not going to hit by us.
okay, good, good. I kind of had my eye on it, but it didn't look like it was coming towards Texas. So I was like, okay, but yeah, I have friends in that part of the country too. So
Yeah, see, you have that problem. Do you have problems with electric there? Because you guys get some pretty bad storms. You don't get hurricanes, but you get
yeah, oh yeah, we do. We do. When Hurricane Beryl came through a couple of years ago, it ripped my roof to shreds and I
wow.
lost, like you said, this was in my old house. I had three freezers because I had my refrigerator with the freezer in the kitchen. I have a deep freezer in the garage plus another refrigerator with a freezer in the garage. So we lost all of that. We were without power for like 5 days.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was horrible. So,
Yeah, and it's just sad that you're wasting all that food. It's like
right.
so. I just
Yeah.
try not to have that much during her. At least for August, September here, because
Hmm.
that's when it's at its peak.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's, of course, this is off topic, but with the hurricanes, first thing you do is pull out, okay, what can we eat? What can we cook on the
Mhm.
grill or something, you know, and luckily we have gas, so I was able to cook some
Ah,
things on the
lucky.
stove. You just have to light it with a lighter instead of, letting it self light. But yeah, we were cooking as much as we could before it was like, okay, we can't cook anymore. But yeah, it's one of those
Well,
things you deal with.
I want to thank everybody for being here and joining us again. Real quickly, if you're a content creator, hashtag GLP1 in the comments. Your link will come up, and I could put it in the um, description. I see some of you are content creators and haven't done that. I'll try to include your links. I probably won't get around to doing that till tomorrow. So as this goes up, it won't be there, but trust me, it will. And Pamela, always a pleasure. I'll find any excuse to keep getting you to come back to my channel. I
Oh,
love chatting with
anytime.
you.
Thank you so much for suggesting this again. It's so fun, and it gave me a reason to go live because that's something I hadn't done yet. So I appreciate you suggesting this, and thank you again for having me. This is great. Anytime you want to
Okay,
do this again, I will
awesome.
make myself available.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to end this. Have a great night, everybody, or a good weekend.
Bye.